The term deranged sociopath gets thrown around a lot by the media, but it really applies to my next guest. Please welcome Jason. How are you? You know what I've noticed? I see all your movies, man. And you know what I've really noticed? You're angry. And I don't mean to laugh, excuse me, it's just the way I am. But you're angry. What happened? What happened?
Jason Goes to Hell. The Final Friday.
G'day there, my name's Chris.
And I'm Nathan.
And this is CinemaBiosis, the show where we take a look at movies and their strange symbiotic connections to other forms of media. And today, we're talking about Jason Goes to Hell, the Final Friday, which, despite not having Friday the 13th in its name, is the 9th film in the Friday the 13th franchise. And perhaps the best one. Would you agree, Nathan?
No, definitely not.
My mistake. I don't know about you, Nathan, but I've always been a bit suspicious when a film includes final in its subtitle. Did you ever think this was going to be the final Friday the 13th?
No, definitely not. Because what is it? This is a second final, isn't it?
Friday the 13th, part 4, the final chapter. And then we had 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. And then we also got 10.
So they're actually about due for a final one.
we need a third final one. The final trilogy.
The final. We mean it this time.
Yeah. No, seriously. The Friday the 13th franchise started in 1980 with the release of the first film, and the series was pretty much popular right out of the gate, mostly because they didn't cost much to make, and they made quite a bit of money at the box office. As the series progressed, however, would you say they started to wane a little, Nathan?
Yeah, they were running out of ideas, would be the best way to put it.
Yeah, there was a lot of similar films coming out, competing for that same audience, and the series was getting predictable and worn out. But this movie was meant to be a shot in the arm, revitalizing the series and taking it in a new direction, and I guess technically it did one of those things, so clap for that.
Oh, it took it in a new direction. Is that what you meant?
It was a new direction, it just so happened that direction was off a cliff. For context, we're both big fans of the movies despite them being aggressively mediocre. Unlike Halloween or A Nightmare on Elm Street, there aren't really any objectively great films in the series when it comes to Friday the 13th, but that's kind of the charm, isn't it, Nathan?
Yeah, no, none of them what you would call great or good. They're just, how are people going to die? They're just a slasher. How's Jason going to finish people off this time is all you're watching it for. You're not watching it for plot or twisting story or mystery.
No, the plot for Friday the 13th movies are pretty simplistic. There's Camp Crystal Lake, there's Jason, and he's angry, and there's some teenagers, and what happens, Nathan?
If they party, take drugs, have sex, think about doing any of those three things, and you're gonna die.
If Jason gets a whiff of any of that, you're dead.
What if I want to have sex before I get married?
Well, I guess you just have to be prepared to die.
Son of a bitch.
But like I've already said, they tried to revitalize the series with this film, which meant they changed the plot. They changed the formula that's so intrinsic to a Friday the 13th movie.
Well, okay, Chris, you explain to me what the plot is in this film.
I can do that, Nathan. It's pretty simple. After a string of violent crimes, an FBI agent, played by Kyle MacLachlan, known mostly for his role in Twin Peaks, must team up with a homicide detective to hunt a mysterious life form that can transfer itself from human host to human host via oral exchange.
No, that's the hidden, man. You've got that wrong.
Sorry. You can understand how I got it wrong because it's the exact same plot as The Hidden from 1987.
Yeah, it really is.
Interestingly, the team behind Jason Goes to Hell claimed they had never seen The Hidden prior to making the movie. Although, even if they had ripped it off, both were released by the same production company, New Line Cinema, which is pretty baffling to me because you think someone somewhere in the company would have gone, hold up a second, these are pretty similar.
Yeah, no one was watching this movie.
Huh? Come again?
My name is
The Hidden.
and I'm your twin brother.
Oh, obviously.
Look, if we are actually really talking about plot, we're going to have to start at the beginning with this one, just to try and get a sense of what the creative team wanted to do. So, the beginning of this film starts with what they call the sting operation. What's the sting operation, Nathan?
Some lady shows up in a car, randomly walks around a cabin, has to have a shower for some reason. Jason hears that someone's getting undressed in one of his cabins and comes to kill her. And then a whole bunch of SWAT dudes pop out and they blow him up with an airstrike.
Yep. It's one of those special missiles, Nathan, that doesn't have any shrapnel.
Yeah, it's a hockey mask seeking missile.
Target locked on. Likely Jason and or child playing hockey.
So yeah, they've sent this lady out to kind of lure him, which is just so weird because it makes no sense within the universe of the film. Who's watching her do these things except for the audience?
Yeah.
Unless for some reason you have to get naked, you have to try the lights and all of these cliches to summon Jason like it's some kind of magical spell.
Oh, the only thing that was missing was her, like, ripping out a bong hit before she got in the shower.
I don't know, mate. Maybe we're assuming Jason's a bit of a narc. What else is he doing out there with all his time? So they end up taking Jason's body to the local morgue, and that's about it for him in this movie, or at least for the Jason we know and love. Once again, the character is played by the great Kane Hodder, who has played Jason more than anyone else in the history of the franchise. It's so good they brought him back for his, 4 minutes of screen time, Nathan?
Oh, he does get a cameo as a security guard as well, don't forget.
Oh yeah, him and his amazing mullet, who perhaps gets even more screen time than Kane Hodder himself. And I mean, it wasn't a cameo just for the sake of a cameo. It was really important that Kane Hodder tickle that morgue assistant. But the local coroner starts to dissect Jason's body, and he's very professional about it.
In my professional opinion, this guy's dead in shit.
And then what happens, Nathan?
Oh, he's standing there and the heart starts beating again, and he decides to eat it, and that somehow transfers Jason's soul, demon, essence, all the above, into him.
But what's the reason for him to do that?
It's beating, so he just goes, "Oh, gonna eat it."
That is fucking disgusting.
And you're right when you say a spirit or something, because it's pretty unclear in the movie. Sometimes Jason travels via little lights, sometimes he needs to kiss someone to transfer himself, and other times he's traveling by little demon, or at least a puppet meant to represent a little demon.
Yeah, the Ghoulies reject puppet.
Yeah, the Ghoulies reject.
Ghoulies. They'll get you in the end.
I don't know if it's integral to the plot or the puppet's backstory, but I think it loves ramen because that guy's body it was hiding in was full of ramen. So yeah, that's about it. The movie essentially becomes a body swap film without rhyme or reason. I mean, eventually we get an explanation, but not quick enough.
He's just going around transferring to body, and then, like, halfway through the movie, someone goes, "Oh, he's got to find a Voorhees. He's looking for his sister." No one's mentioned his sister at this point. It's like halfway through the movie.
And it's not even not mentioning her in this movie. It's just not mentioning her in any of the movies.
Yeah, 8 movies prior.
Jason had a sister, your girlfriend's mother, Diana. Now that she's dead, he has only 2 blood relatives left in the world with the power to kill him or make him reborn. Jessica and her baby.
Look, ignoring the fact that they're just making up new mythology for this movie and it's kind of dumb mythology, if you're going to put it in there, just put it in there early enough for me to understand Jason's motivations. I mean, normally it's pretty simple. There's people intruding on Camp Crystal Lake, so I'm going to kill them. I can get behind that, but I need Jason to have some reason to do what he's doing. Otherwise, he just is wandering around like some kind of depressed teenager.
Depression. It can affect anyone, even Jason.
But yeah, the body swapping doesn't make sense. There's no proper explanation for it.
Yeah, and it also doesn't explain why it transfers into like a 50-year-old man and all of a sudden he's got this super strength and can take people down. It's like, how does that happen? Has he got superpowers? Like, he's a rotten zombie corpse before.
Yeah, it's almost like they just wanted to actually have Jason. So it's like, well, why didn't you just have Jason? And it doesn't explain why they start to melt once he leaves them. They literally start to turn into goo. And honestly, when I saw it, I could only think of my dream crossover that I didn't know I wanted before I saw that melting man.
RoboCop versus Jason. Look, long story short, Jason just needs to find a blood relative so he can be reborn. That's about it. There's not really much going on with the plot whatsoever. I mean, it's the same with the characters. They're all pretty bland.
Oh, yeah. Well, you have got Duke, though. He's a fair character.
Ah, yeah. Creighton Duke, the bounty hunter going after Jason. He's probably the best character in the movie if we had to choose, but even then, they try to make him badass, but he's just weird.
I'm going to say 2 words to you, Mr. Duke, and I want you to say the first thing that comes to your mind, okay?
Okay.
You ready?
Shoot.
Jason Voorhees.
Well, that makes me think of a little girl in a pink dress sticking a hot dog through a donut.
Why is he dressed like a cowboy?
This character, his literal defining trait in this movie is that he dresses like a cowboy. And the only reason he's dressed like a cowboy is the actor wouldn't sign on for the movie unless he could dress as a cowboy.
I swear that was his way to get out of the movie. He's like, I got no way out of this contract. Well, I have to be a cowboy. And they went, yeah, all right. And he's like, God damn it. He still had to be in it. And now he's dressed as a cowboy as well.
It's one of those facts that sound so ludicrous that it's hard to believe it's true. But from what I can tell, it's true, believe me.
Oh, I know that. Problem is, how you gonna get anyone else to believe you?
It's a pretty well-known fact this film had a troubled production, and there's been quite a few documentaries exploring the details, but essentially the director was inexperienced, the producer was allegedly pushing him to take the series in a new direction, and the whole thing was just a mess where they were lucky to get any final product.
Kane assures us that this is indeed the last Jason film.
So obviously this wasn't ever going to be the last Jason film, as New Line Cinema had just bought the rights to the character to make this film. Not Friday the 13th, but the character Jason himself, which is why the movie doesn't have a matching title with the rest of the series.
Oh, that's why Jason 10 is called... Well, see, I call it Jason 10. It's Friday the 13th 10, but it's called Jason X.
Look, the title situation is a little confusing, but honestly, it's one of the least baffling things about Jason X.
He's coming this way.
Kidding me? Brodsky.
New Line's not going to kill their recent investment, so there were plans to spin the series into something else. Something that hadn't really been popular since the Universal horror film days where you had Frankenstein, Dracula, and the Wolfman. Essentially, they were going to do a big old monster mash film. Now, at the time, there was only a plan to have Jason go toe-to-toe with one very specific horror icon owned by New Line, but there were plenty of references to other genre classics throughout Jason Goes to Hell. For example, in the basement of the Voorhees house, we see a very familiar looking crate, which is a direct reference to Creepshow. And we also see a familiar looking book that's the Necronomicon from the Evil Dead series.
That's not one you can sneak in. Everyone knows Evil Dead. Everyone knows that book. Like, as soon as it shows up, you're like, what? Why is that in there?
Yeah, well, they linger on it because that wasn't just a reference. The director actually wanted it to be a link to Evil Dead. In his mind, Pamela Voorhees, the mother of Jason, made a deal with the devil by reading from the Necronomicon to bring her son back to life, which is why Jason isn't Jason. He's Jason plus the Evil Dead. And he can go, you know, from a little boy to a full-grown man in a couple of months, from zombie Jason to being this, you know, person who can transfer their body. So it wasn't meant to be an Easter egg. It was meant to be the plot.
That's a massive plot point to bring in 8 movies later.
Yeah, and I mean, you think you would clear that with legal before including it as a major plot point, because they couldn't say it was Evil Dead because they didn't own the rights to Evil Dead.
Oh, you bastards! Why are you torturing me like this? Why?
Of course, we have to talk about the big dog, the one reference to another film that was inevitable. What is it, Nathan?
Nightmare on Elm Street, old Freddy Krueger's glove.
Yes, Jason Goes to Hell was meant to be the foundation for a Freddy vs. Jason film. So, in many ways, you could call it the Iron Man of the New Line cinematic universe.
No.
But seriously, this was a big deal at the time, so it's insane to think the mashup film didn't come out for nearly a decade, especially after New Line bought Jason for this purpose. Now, there's a lot of reasons for this, but one of the ones that comes up a lot is that the creative team was trying to steer Jason back onto course after the dismal fan reaction to Jason Goes to Hell, which is why there were so many abandoned scripts for the Freddy vs. Jason film. One number even puts it at 17.
Holy crap, how hard is it to make Freddy vs. Jason?
I know, right? But apparently it's pretty damn hard, because I found some of the proposed ideas that were developed in the wake of Jason Goes to Hell, and let's just say they're interesting. Would you like to hear some of my favourites?
Yeah, for sure.
Welcome to my world, bitch.
One script had Freddy as Jason's father, so at some point he impregnated Pamela and she gave birth to Jason.
Oh.
Another had him responsible for drowning Jason at Camp Crystal Lake, as Freddy was a child killer and I assume was working as a camp counselor for some reason.
Yeah, well, you're a kid killer. Like, yeah, you gotta get access to a few.
True. It's like visiting the buffet.
Bon appetit!
In one early draft of the script, Jason Voorhees had been captured and restrained by authorities and would spend much of the film on trial for his countless murders. His defense lawyer would have been the lead character. This one's my personal favorite.
How would he be on trial without busting free and killing people?
Yeah, and also, can you convict a dead man? He's a zombie. Is no one going to acknowledge that?
A stinking rotten corpse.
It's even more ridiculous when you remember he can't talk.
I'm going to ask you some very simple and direct questions. I suggest that you answer them in the same fashion. Did you murder Clarence Darby?
One early considered script revolved around a cult of Freddy-worshipping teens called the Fredheads, who sought to resurrect Freddy through a series of sacrifices. Jason would have been brought back to life in order to stop Freddy and the cult.
Or would they dress in fedoras and stripy jumpers?
Yeah. Like a bunch of Redditors. Predators. There's your mash.
Predator.
Yeah, there's your mashup, Alien vs. Predator. In one of the original endings, Freddy and Jason were supposed to continue their battle in hell at the end of the movie, when suddenly they hear a voice saying, "What seems to be the problem, gentlemen?" And it's Pinhead from Hellraiser. But again, this was scrapped due to licensing issues, as Miramax owned the rights to the Hellraiser franchise. Honestly, I think they should have just done an ending stinger with Pinhead and Ash and anyone they can think of thrown in, because then they could have fulfilled my dream of a Jason-based courtroom drama, except this time it would be the producers in court for copyright infringement.
Can you imagine how difficult that case would be? The only thing harder than working something that complex is trying to figure out if some scenes from Jason Goes to Hell are attempting to be funny or if they're serious and they've just messed up the tone.
I got a gun. Fuck that. I got a gun. You totally wrecked Jessica.
So Nathan, would you recommend Jason Goes to Hell?
Yes, but you have to watch all the other movies first. You have to watch 1 through 8 and then this one. If you watch it without that, you're just not going to know what's happening.
Yeah, and you won't know why it's so shocking that they took the series in a new direction without that context. I would say if you're going to watch Jason Goes to Hell, it's not only worth watching all of the previous movies, but also the documentary Crystal Lake Memories about the series, as it has a bit of extra background info about this movie and the other films in the franchise.
It's probably more entertaining too.
Look, we're ripping on Jason Goes to Hell, but it's definitely not the worst Friday the 13th movie.
No, that's the 8th one?
Yeah, maybe the 5th one.
Oh, yeah, that one too.
To be fair, this one's also pretty bad.
Yeah.
Maybe this is the worst one.
Yeah, no, this is probably the worst one.
I'd like to thank you for coming by. It's a pleasure. Jason, ladies and gentlemen.
Thanks for watching, folks. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to like, subscribe, and hit the bell so you don't miss out on our new content, like our review for Hell Comes to Frogtown, the weird Mad Max ripoff with humanoid frogs. Or my recent discussion on how John Carpenter and Roddy Piper broke the 80s action hero with the film They Live. You can also follow us on Twitter by clicking the link in the description below. Until next time, stay safe and stay weird.